When I first watched Avengers Endgame, I'll be honest, I rolled my eyes. Time travel? I remember thinking, oh great, here we go. The cheapest possible way to undo the ending of the last movie. It felt like a narrative shortcut. And yet, by the end of that movie, I had tears in my eyes. So the question isn't whether time travel was a cheap idea. The question is, why did it still work? I'm Dave Lance. Welcome to the Symbiote Signal, where we decode the MCU through patterns and logic. That reaction I had wasn't unique. A lot of people felt the same way, even people outside of comic fandom. If you're not coming from a comics mindset, time travel looks like a cheat code. This isn't about fans being dumb, and it's not about critics being wrong. It's about something else, because the problem wasn't bad writing. The problem was that we were all missing a rule. There's an old unspoken rule in comics. Comic nerds have had a name for it forever. We call it because comics. And no, it's not an excuse. It's not laziness. And it's not a loophole. It's a storytelling contract. Because comics is the understanding that comics are not bound by physics. They are bound by meaning. This is the rule that explains things like Gladiator punching through a planet, or Hyperion literally holding two colliding universes apart with his bare hands. None of these make sense, and it's not supposed to. Because comics are not trying to be realistic. They are trying to be mythic. Somewhere along the way, though, we forgot that rule. Let's take a moment for our long box section. If you're new here, this is where I share some of my personal comics, some of my favorite covers, and some of my favorite stories that sometimes pertain to current MCU events. I didn't pull it out of the cover, but this is a good cover here. A nice start. I like this start. Nothing too spectacular. Very artsy. Got the white background. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Max character. She reminds me of the Jungle Princess a little bit from the Max comic. Image are my favorite. And another Image comic. We have a Blood Strike #1. I found this just laying around. The cover says rub the blood. So I tried to do that and definitely damaged my perfect comic, and the blood doesn't work anymore, whatever it's supposed to do. So I mean, it's still cool though. Up next we got some Batman. This is a pretty cool Batman run here. Some pretty dark imagery. The Dark Knight run. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but I really like the imagery on this run. Got some Spawn and Batman team up here. This is a graphic novel. Yep, that's another graphic novel that I bought when I was 12. Just throwing that out there. I mean, if you see Spawn and Batman team up, you kind of have to, right? Kind of have to. Up next, we got some Blood Strike, another Image comic. I don't know if anybody knows about Image Comics these days, but Image Comics were Marvel artists, and a lot of Marvel artists moved from Marvel at one point in time over to Image, and they were very good artists. In fact, this is kind of funny what I'm noticing right now, but if you take a look at this cover, what do you notice like there? Yeah. I'd say that's pretty, look at that. If you move one, I threw in some more modern comics tonight too, because I still collect comics. Some Guardians of the Galaxy and Annihilators comics. These were some good comics. Let's take a look inside. Hela was in these comics a lot, and my boy, a Gladiator. Some pretty good imagery here. Some Gladiator. And we got some more Annihilators. I'm not sure if I have mentioned Beta Ray Bill on this channel yet, but Beta Ray Bill needs his due, don't you think? We need some Beta Ray Bill in the MCU. That's all I'm saying. When I was a kid, I learned who Beta Ray Bill was because there was a specific comic where Eric Masters, I think it was, fought Thor. And so there were three Thors in one comic. About lost my mind. And of course, that was when I was introduced to Beta Ray Bill. And in that comic, Beta Ray Bill pretty much kicked Thor's ass. I'm just saying. And so that's a pretty good introduction. If you kick Thor's ass, people will remember you, right? And of course, he has the actual face of a horse. Here's the next one. The cover's not my favorite on this, but there's some really great art inside this one. Here we go. We got some Beta Ray Bill versus some Wolverine, and also versus Red Hulk. It's a pretty good comic. This is a newer one, and another Image comic. We got a Ravage #1 here. Check out that holographic background. This is something I noticed recently, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. If you look at the holographic background behind these comics on the shelf, the pattern is the same. Different colors, but the same design. I'd rather not remove these from the cases, but you can see this. And then I noticed that the holographic webbing pattern on the comics on the shelf behind me have the same theme going. In fact, it's the same holographic webbing pattern used on the Spider-Man 30th anniversary issues. Red, black, blue, green. Comics have always communicated through visual shorthand. They don't explain it. They don't stop the story to justify it. They trust that if you feel the repetition, you'll understand the meaning. That's because comics. Not telling you why something works, but showing you why it belongs. Like Peter Pan leaving Neverland, we grow up, and we trade imagination for realism. We start demanding that myth obey logic it was never built for. And we tell ourselves we're being smarter. But really, did we get smarter? We just got narrower. And the truth is, every one of us has been there. Every one of us at some point imagined flying or moving things with our minds or shooting lasers out of our eyes. That wasn't rare imagination, that was childhood. And just because we grew up doesn't mean that part of us disappeared. Stories don't invent that instinct, they remember it for us. I talked about Rogue in the last video, and there's a reason she's always stuck with me. I don't remember every episode of that old cartoon, but I remember her voice. There's a line she says that I'll never forget. She says, in a southern voice that I'm not willing at this time to imitate, "You look about as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs." I was probably 10 years old when I heard that, and I still remember it. That's not realism, that's logic, that's myth, and that's why Endgame worked. Not because the time travel rules were airtight, they weren't. It worked because the story respected the contract. Tony's sacrifice mattered. Steve's ending meant something. There was consequence. Endgame didn't cheat, it earned its leap. That's the difference. This is why so many MCU debates feel off. Take Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. A lot of people were upset that Kang was defeated by ants. And look, I get it. The execution may not have landed perfectly for everyone. But conceptually, there's no problem here at all. If you remember the rule, a conqueror brought low by something he thought insignificant, that's not bad writing. That's comic book irony. The issue was whether the moment felt earned. And this is where multiverse fatigue really comes from. It's not too many ideas, it's contract confusion. People are arguing mechanics instead of engaging with meaning. Here's why this actually matters. When we accept the because comics rule, we don't just unlock bigger action or crazier visuals. We unlock the ability to explore the biggest questions humans have ever asked. Questions about creators and creations, about purpose, about sacrifice. about what it means to exist and what it costs to matter? Those questions don't live in realism, they live in myth. This is why characters like Galactus work at all. He's not meant to be realistic. He's meant to be unavoidable. A force so vast that the question isn't how to stop him, but what his existence says about the universe itself. And that's the territory comics have always been willing to explore. The moment we accept because comics, skepticism loosens its grip. We stop interrogating mechanics and engaging with the meaning. That's when stories rise to a new plateau, where the impossible isn't a problem to solve, but a doorway to something bigger. Because comics isn't childish, it's not lazy, it's mythic literacy. And if we remember that rule, not only does Endgame make sense, but the future of the MCU does too. If this way of looking at Marvel resonates with you, you're in the right place. I'm Dave Lance, and this has been the Symbiote Signal, decoding the MCU through patterns and logic. I'll see you in the next one.